The new add-on is released. It's the ability to block traffic by country. And David, if it's okay with you, I'll pass it over. You can tell us a bit more about the benefits and how this new add-on works.
Yeah, this is a feature that's been discussed by quite a few users for really one specific use case, but it does have several features and benefits that we'll run through real quick. And then we'll also show you a quick demo of how it actually works in practice. So going over the key features and benefits here, you can use it one of two ways. You can block traffic from specific countries, so you can specify individual countries that you don't want to allow visitors from to access your website, or you can allow traffic only from specific countries. So you can make it work one of two ways. Also, the way website visitor locations are determined is by their IP address. So, VPNs have become a little bit more popular lately. Most people still aren't using them, so it is still relatively reliable to determine a visitor's location by their IP address. But just something to keep in mind that it's not 100% foolproof in case someone might happen to use a VPN to show their location as being somewhere they're not. But with this add-on, it could also improve security by denying access from specific high-risk countries, and in that same vein, reduce spam by blocking traffic from countries known for spam. Really, you don't want to kind of block as many countries as possible, but if on your website you're noticing spam or some nefarious activity from users in specific countries, then at that point, you might want to utilize the tool within this add-on here and block traffic from that specific country. In doing so, if you happen to notice, a lot of spam signups from a specific country that you're not necessarily targeting, then blocking all traffic from that country can, in some cases, end up saving website resources such as bandwidth, storage, your member limit, things like that. And this add-on is pretty simple. There's only a few settings, really just one setting. You could disable it, or like I mentioned, there's two ways to use it. You can only allow traffic from specific countries, and then you can select the specific countries that you want to allow access to your website from, or you can block traffic from specific countries. So if you happen to notice a lot of spam coming from one country in particular, you can block all traffic from that country. And this does totally block access to your website from visitors of those specific countries that you've specified. You can see here in this screenshot, if somebody's trying to access your website from a country that you have blacklisted, they'll be presented with this forbidden 403 error. So they won't be able to access any aspect of your website at all. You really do want to use this add-on sparingly if you are going to be using it. One thing you do want to keep in mind is that even if you are targeting a single country, say for example, you have a Canadian website, you only care about visitors from Canada coming to your website. So you might be thinking, well, I'll just block all traffic from visitors who aren't located in Canada. You might have legitimate Canadians trying to access your website who might be traveling at the time, might be out of the country. Maybe they live part-time in the US, or maybe they work in the US, so they're going back and forth over the border. And in that case, they might be trying to access your website from a non-Canadian IP address, and they'll be wrongfully blocked from accessing your website in that case. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, if you happen to work with a team of people, or maybe a developer located in another country, you want to make sure that the country that your team members or anybody else you're working with is not on your block list. Otherwise, they won't be able to access the website. Search engines, Google, Bing, a lot of other online tools that crawl your website, they might crawl your website from IP addresses that might be in countries that you have on your block list. If, say, for example, you have an Australian website and you block all traffic from websites other than Australia, if Google has some servers in the US that are trying to crawl and scrape your website, then you might be blocking access to your website from Google. And of course, you can always block and unblock countries temporarily as needed. So if out of the blue you start to notice an influx in spam from a specific country and you're not targeting any users in that country, it's far away, maybe at that point you want to place that country on your block list and then remove that country again in a week or maybe a month. See if that spam persists. If it does, you can leave the country on your block list. If not, there's no harm in removing it from your block list. Again, even if you're not necessarily targeting users in that specific country. So really the most practical use case here with this add-on is to block countries that are delivering spam to your website or you're seeing some other nefarious activity from. When that spam stops, then at that point you might want to revisit your block list and remove those countries. Make sure that that the spam no longer persists, and if it's not, you can leave that country off the block list. But there's a lot of caveats you do want to consider, but really, if you're noticing a lot of spam from a specific country, that's the primary use case for this add-on.
Yeah, and I like the second to last point here. You can always block and unblock countries based on the unwanted traffic or sign up that you're getting, and when you can identify that the trend is coming from IP addresses of a certain country, and then after a period of time you can unblock it. Same as if you're working with team and staff members. Maybe you're working with a developer for a month who may be in a country that generally you are blocking the traffic from. You can unblock that country maybe for the time that you're working with the developer or a staff member, and then block it again after that work is completed. But let's dive into this. Let's have some stuff. Let's block some countries from a website and see how this all works. So let's go into the admin area. The settings for this are going to be under your general settings. So we'll go to settings, general settings, and it's going to be under the localization tab. And this tab is where you set your website language, your time and date format. And when you have this add-on, you will see this new field here, block traffic by country. And what you'll have are three basic settings. It's gonna start blank and disabled just like this. Disable setting. So if you select only allow traffic from, and I did United States, that means only people visiting my site from United States IP addresses can view my site. My website to the rest of the world will appear disabled, turned off. They're not going to use any bandwidth, any resources. The site doesn't exist to any other countries besides the United States of America in this case. So again, be careful with this setting unless you're 100% sure. Maybe you don't care about SEO in Google and Bing. There's lots of private membership networks out there who are local. They don't care about search engine optimization and things like that. And they'll be perfectly fine with just keeping their website contained within one or two countries. And this setting would be for you. Again, use with caution. The next setting would be block traffic from. So this will allow traffic from all countries except the ones that you have listed. So in this example, what we're going to do is there's a tool called GeoPeeker, basically pings your site from multiple locations around the world and it shows you the status. Sometimes it says it can't render the site. The tool is 80% reliable, but let's just click go before we block any countries. Virginia here got a render unavailable. That doesn't mean the site's offline. It's just the tool couldn't fetch it in this instance. So we can see here Brazil, Ireland, Australia, and Singapore. They've all been able to render. Let's block Singapore and Brazil just because they're the two options here from this tool. So we'll type in Singapore and Brazil, and we'll save the changes. So if we run this tool again, GeoPeeker, it should show that forbidden error. Let's run this one more time, that the site simply doesn't exist. So Ireland's good to go, Australia. So here we could see the forbidden area, Australia, Ireland. Don't know why these ones are having an issue. It's just a tool here. But if we click on Brazil here, the web page is saying you don't have permission to access this resource. This basically usually means that the website is offline for those people who are visiting. And again, the benefit of this, it uses absolutely zero bandwidth or resources of your site. The visitor is instantly being blocked and rejected. Same thing with Singapore here. It says you don't have permission to access the site. So let's do the inverse now. Let's switch from block traffic from and only allow traffic from. And we can see here, Ireland and Australia were able to access it. So let's do the inverse now, and we'll save the changes. And we'll run the GeoPeeker one more time. So in this case, only traffic from Singapore and Brazil are going to be allowed. And we can see Ireland is showing the forbidden error now. Australia the same, and we can see Brazil. There we go. So Singapore and Brazil were able to load successfully here. And then we can disable the setting. You can always disable it. So if you have a set of countries saved, again, maybe you're temporarily using this tool and you have a nice list of your good countries or bad countries, whatever you want to call them, target countries or non-target countries. So if we disable this setting, disabling the setting basically turns off the add-on, even if you have some saved countries here. And of course, if you want to remove countries, you can just X them out, or you can add countries as needed. So that basically is the add-on. If you're seeing unwanted signups on your site, especially if you're regionally specific, you could just go ahead and block certain countries that you think are bringing you unwanted traffic.